So, good morning or good night, depending on where you are in the world, and welcome to another interview of the Shield Dude on a Couch. I'm your host, Hector, and tonight I'm joined by Josh Richter, and he's the lead singer for the band Red Temple Pray. And for those of you that don't know, Red Temple Pray is an alternative hard rock band from Ohio, and they just released their debut record. They had an EP, but they released the debut record I think a few weeks ago, and it's called Can It Get Any Worse? So, Josh, how are you tonight, sir?
I'm good, man. How are you? Thank you for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, no, thank you. We were talking offline how I talk to so many bands, but I like to talk to bands that play alternative rock that has that 90s feel because I think we grew up in the 90s.
Yeah.
And I love the 90s music. I think to this day, like I like some modern stuff, but I think when I go back to it, my favorite music are those albums that I grew up with in the 90s, like all those alternative, the Nirvanas, the Pearl Jams, Hum,
Yeah, that's right up my alley. Yeah. And
Failure,
Failure.
Helmets,
Yep.
all
Yep.
those bands.
Yep.
I don't know. I think in the 90s, it was like a beautiful time because I think I know some people will say some other eras, but to me, the 90s was the perfect era because there was so many blending of different styles, and I think it was more accepted. Like nowadays, like even when you put on a record, everyone will ask you first of all, what do they sound like?
Dude, every time. Every single time. Every time.
And in the 90s, I think people were just like, yeah, let me listen to it. I don't and like you could have like it was crazy. Like you could have like Sublime number one record on one week, and then
Yep.
the next week you would have the Prodigy, who
Right.
sounds completely different.
Yep.
Then you would have like a pop record or a rap record, and everyone accepted it. And I don't know about you, Josh, but I think we were happier.
Absolutely. 100%, dude. Not only was I was like young and hungry in the 90s. So like everything that I listened to, I was just grabbing and being like obsessed with, you know what I mean? And then like I didn't get necessarily jaded, but I got kind of burnt out through later in my teen years because I felt like everything started to get real pretentious and like no one was enjoying it anymore. You know what I mean? So like I was born in 86. And so I grew up through the 90s and I started getting into music at a very young age. And especially like hoarding and collecting records and like discographies of bands. I'd like be obsessed with bands like Stone Temple Pilots is like one of my all-time favorites. Like, which they had like they were in the grunge-ish era, but they also still had like rock based
And
roots.
had
So
a
like the real
Yeah, Scott Weiland had like a very bluesy type of style to his
yep.
voice. I remember that a lot of people compared him to Eddie Vedder, and I
Mhm.
never saw that comparison. To me, they were
Dude.
totally different. When Scott Stapp from Creed came, then I thought he was like
Yeah.
copying Eddie Vedder. Like he was
Yeah.
like, "Well, I just knew." I'm like, "You're just
Right.
copying it. It's the same.
Absolutely.
It's the same Jarl."
Right. That softball in your mouth feel like, oh, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah. There was like I want to say there was like a Rolling Stone interview or like a review whenever they put out Core. And I want to say that they said something along the lines of whoever did the interview way back in the day, they like shit on the record hard. They didn't like it.
Oh, I
And they said
think
if
that
I
record got some bad reviews back in
yeah.
the day because they called them like a Pearl Jam wannabe or something
Yeah,
like that.
yeah, yeah. They're like, if I wanted to listen to Pearl Jam, I'd go listen to Pearl Jam. It's like, dude, like, man, like that, and like that record is phenomenal. That record and Purple both are just
Yeah, I never understood the
massive.
comparison.
Me
And
either.
there's like other bands. I remember when they started comparing Bush to Nirvana, uh,
Mm-hmm.
and uh, I didn't hear the comparison. They played
I didn't
alternative,
either.
but it was like totally different. I
Yeah,
think they were just saying because they were both like good looking guys.
dude, 100%. Yeah, that's exactly it.
That would happen. And but something yeah I love about the 90s is that the 90s can be divided like in three distinctive musical eras. You have the beginning of the 90s, which was more of the grunge sound of it with the alternative, but you also have some pretty awesome heavy metal bands like doing great stuff like Pantera,
Yeah.
Metallica, White Zombie. Then
I'm
you
a
have,
massive White Zombie fan, by the way. So
yeah, then you have like the
yeah.
middle of the 90s where there was like the Lilith Fair and there was a lot of like female singers getting like
Yeah.
recognition, like Alanis Morissette. You had Fiona Apple, you have Sarah McLachlan, you had Tori Amos and PJ Harvey. You had like that
Yeah.
middle, and then you had like the from 96 to 200 was like more of the new metal type of years where you had the rap being included. So yeah, that's why I think the 90s it's so it can be divided in like three eras, uh,
Yeah.
and a lot of experimentation. So yeah, this album I listened to it, and it's right up my alley. Uh, I know you released a few singles. I saw the music videos for Chlorine and Bottle Rocket, and I think you have another one, right?
Yeah, we did Down the Drain
Down the
was on
Drain
the
that finishes the album,
yeah.
and that one, yeah, the it's good because I was trying to pinpoint the your style of voice. So I wanted to ask you like for you like three vocalists that really inspired you.
When it comes to like clean vocals, and I know a lot of people hate that term, harsh and clean, but I'm also the singer of a death metal band too. So like my favorites are like staggered a little bit, but my favorite as far as influences when it comes to any type of like a cleaner vocal would be probably Scott Weiland from Stone Temple Pilots. And it's weird because I don't sound anything like any of these guys, but like the ones that were just like, oh my God, dude, like I want to do a clean vocal, grungy, hard rock alternative band. Uh Scott, Chino from Deftones, and probably okay, this is gonna be left field and weird, but Bon Scott from AC/DC, that era had a little bit of a fucking harshness, but it was
Mm-hmm.
still clean enough in the hooks, man. It was like the hooks that he did, um, for as simple as the music was, like they were beautiful to me. Like they were like everything, especially as a child. And going even to like now, I still listen to the AC/DC records like continuously. But I also grew up on like hair metal a lot. So it's a really weird, like I love Blackie from Wasp a lot. So like it's hard for me to really find a band that influenced me into what I do. It's just naturally my voice sounds like it does whenever I sing.
Mm-hmm.
And but I was mega influenced by all these like older bands, and it's really weird because a lot of people, whenever I do talk about the Red Temple Prayed to them, they ask me like, oh, like, because Nirvana is like a very easy thing to kind of latch on because everybody knows that band. But dude, I never liked Nirvana growing up, and I didn't like them until like 2 years ago,
Oh
which is
wow.
wild, dude. Yeah, which is wild. I never liked that band, man. But I get it now. It took me a long time, but I
No.
get it.
I love them. I was I was in my teens in the 90s. So
Yeah.
I was right there when Nevermind blew up. So I remember those years vividly, but the sound of your band reminds me more of like a home failure, especially in the tones of the guitar. Uh,
Yeah.
that's the type of vibe that I got. Because the 90s had a lot of bands. So I got that vibe from the band. And something that I find very interesting since the last 10 years or so, I think there's been a resurgence of that 90s sound. Because I remember the first band I heard, like, and it's been almost 10 years now, that had that sound was a band called Super Heaven.
Oh
Uh,
yeah. Absolutely incredible
and I
band.
remember that I can't remember the name, and I think they're broken up now. But I remember that album that came out in 2015, I think, or I loved it. I can't remember
Was
the name
it
of the
Jar?
yeah, I think no, I think it was the one after Jar. I'll have
Ours is
to
Chrome.
yeah,
Yeah.
that one is
Yeah.
that's the name of the album. And I remember because back then, there was a time that a lot of people were doing more like 80s stuff or like super hard stuff. So I felt like like the 90s had been forgotten. And at the beginning of the 2000s, then you had those bands that were doing the post grunge, like
Yeah,
the Cedars, the Nickelbacks. But to me, they were always like a cheap comparison to the real thing.
absolutely.
But
Always
what I liked about these bands that have started for the last 10 years is that I think they're doing it in a way that it sounds like they're influenced, but it doesn't sound like a copycat. It sounds like they're giving
right.
it a modern spin. And yeah, the name of the album is Ours is Chrome. Yeah. I just checked it.
Incredible
It was
record,
in
dude.
2015, and such a shame that that band is hasn't put out anything because I thought that album was amazing. But
Their
after that
singer's in
band,
another band that's similar to Super Heaven. Um,
oh, there's a few. There's
yeah,
Narrowhead. Uh,
yeah,
there's
great
one
band.
called Fleshwater. Uh,
Hmm.
there's Soul Blind. One that I love is Teenage Wrist.
Love Teenage Wrist, man. Yeah,
Yeah, that's a band that I love too. And uh, you know, a lot of bands have been doing that's like they're doing that sound now, but in a way that's really cool. So it's a resurgence that I think it was necessary because I don't know why there came a point in time that that music was seen like it was like crapped upon so much, and I don't know why because I always thought it was great music.
yeah,
So now like tell me a little bit of like how you guys got together because you told me you sing in a death metal band. So this
yeah.
yeah, so did you always wanted to sing in different type of bands where you could do like different styles?
Absolutely. So like growing up, I was mainly into bands that didn't have any type of like heavy vocal. Like, I mean, I grew up on like the Panteras and stuff like that, but I didn't get into like heavy stuff until my teen years. I was a new metal kid, so I was the kid with the eyebrow ring and all that shit. So that was me, and so I was into all the new metal stuff and everything. But whenever I ventured out and started playing music and writing my own stuff, like I always pictured myself as doing something that had clean vocals in it, and I just like I never did. I just navigated towards death metal. Started playing in death metal bands when I was 18, and I played death metal like ever since then. Red Temple Prey was the first project that I did where it had more of like it was all clean singing. And Red Temple Prey is an older project that I had abandoned and then came back to recently. Um, the guitar player is my younger brother, and the bass player, us three are also in the death metal band together. So we're in the death metal band Bather, like we're also in that band, but we brought Red Temple back and tried to see if we can get it to work again. And it just worked this time. Like and before, like we never released anything. Like we spent years trying to get it together, couldn't get it figured out. And we finally like, I don't know if it just took time, like it just wasn't there yet. But we like as we released that EP, I think what was it like last year or 2 years ago, and then we released this record two
Yeah,
weeks
I
ago.
listened to the song Sherry out of that EP.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool song.
Yeah, thank you, man. But yeah, dude, like it took me forever, but I've always wanted to do it. I put out like some things that were like I did like a goofy, fun, old school rock and roll project that was just put out. I wasn't taking it serious or anything, but like there was something that was kind of like gnawing at me that I mean I 37, I was like I want to do something where I don't feel like a one trick pony. You know what I mean? Like I felt like I was doing death metal. Not that there's anything wrong with it. Like I still play death metal and I love death metal and like heavy music and like hardcore and everything. But I felt like I kind of like pigeonholed myself. Like I was stuck playing like a heavy thing.
Maybe you can do like a death grunge song.
Yeah. Just bring that in there. That'll be the new popular thing. But yeah, man, and it took until my late 30s until I like tried it again, and it worked this time. Like I love this band so much. I have so much fun doing this. It's intimidating because it is a little bit more vulnerable because although that I write mostly love songs. Even with my like death metal band, it's a really weird thing that I've always done is like write love songs. But I feel like the way
The death metal love song.
dude,
Like
I swear, yeah, I swear, dude, I swear, and I feel like that like with being able to express certain things with a heavier vocal, I felt like it was more comfortable for me. So whenever I got to doing a more intimate, clean singing, vulnerable thing that it kind of shook me up a little bit. And then I kind of just like I had to push through and I did it. And I'm super happy with the band. Like I love it. It's great. It's everything that I've ever wanted to do musically. Like it's wild.
Yeah, no, it's good that you, and I think, it's like, why not? I think, this is a music that I think younger generation are latching on to it, because I've always thought that this type of alternative rock, like grunge, whatever you want to call it, I think it's music that, first of all, it's got some good distorted guitars, and I think it has like a lot of the vocals show a lot of feeling, and I like to understand what it's singing. So many bands.
Dude, right.
Another one that I really like is one called Super Bloom. That's from New
Okay.
York City. So, and there's one that there's females who sing called Soft Cult.
Oh
Uh,
yeah. Soft call kicks ass.
oh,
Yeah.
they're super cool, and that's
Yeah.
something else that I think there's a resurgence of that alternative grunge and shoegaze from the '90s, and I think now I've seen like a combination of the shoegaze with the grunge, so they're calling it grunge gaze,
Oh, really?
which is pretty interesting. Like that's what
Yeah.
usually there's a lot of bands that call themselves like grunge gaze, so it's like grunge with some shoegaze, and I think it is good because in the '90s those two they were lumped as two different music genres. Shoegaze was from England, and you have the alternative, like they said at Seattle, but
Right.
to me, alternative really started more with Jane's Addiction.
Yeah.
Uh, that was the first truly alternative band that I could think of, like
Yeah.
that really blend a lot of stuff, and then after that, like it opened the door for so many bands. So, but now I feel like back then shoegaze and grunge was seen as like polar opposites or like competing, and unfortunately, like grunge was more popular than shoegaze, and there's so many awesome '90s shoegaze bands like the Slow
Yeah.
Dives, My Bloody
Slow Dive's
Valentine,
incredible, man. Yeah.
uh, and they had an album last year, incredible album. And now I think with the younger generation, I think like grunge and shoegaze, it seems like they're like brother and sister or cousins. Like they're very similar. They have
Yeah.
some differences, but they're very similar in the vulnerability of the singing. Only that shoegaze is more like dream-like,
Right.
the tone of the guitar, and the grunge or alternative has like more of that distortion in guitar sometimes, but I think they have similarities. What do you think, man?
I fully agree with that. It's cool to see that they kind of coexist. So you see these bands going on tour with each other. I'm a big Nothing fan,
That's
and
another one
they're
that I really like.
dude. Oh my God, they're that band. Whenever they released Guilty of Everything, I remember when that came out, and it kind of like changed everything for me. And I was
Yeah.
like, dude, like this is it's new, it's fresh. They had the washed out vocals, and I started diving into older bands that I never tried out before. That's when I started finding the older shoegaze bands because I was never into like I knew My Bloody Valentine, but I never got into shoegaze until then. And then I kind of started going back, and I noticed that there was a division between the two, and it was like a weird like you said, like alternative was the popular one. So that was the one that was, on the big tours and doing all this stuff.
Yeah.
They would even match up alternative bands with metal bands, but they wouldn't match up shoegaze with alternative, which is super weird because I feel like they're closer than anything. But now they definitely coexist. There's tours with, bands that are like super heaven with,
And
nothing or
there's
whatever.
the band that I think that made the connection of that all that type of music, and my favorite band is Deftones,
Mm-hmm.
because Deftones
Greatest of
was
all time.
able from new metal to like they put a lot of like shoegaze elements to it, but with more abrasive sound. So I think they opened the door for like when I think Deftones is just they're their own sound. I know
Yep.
their first album is new metal, but after that I just say Deftones.
My first
There's no
concert was White Pony, man. It was in 2001. It was on the White Pony tour. Very
Oh,
first
I
one.
never seen Deftones live. I want to see them,
Life
but
changing.
I haven't seen them yet. So hopefully one day. But yeah, so let's talk about more about your record. So I want to show the artwork
Okay.
for the record, that it's also very '90s. Like it reminded me of some older like I'm trying to remember like bands like not Everclear, but it definitely reminds me of like those 90s album covers. So can it get any worse? And you have the girl jumping over the other girl. So tell me a little bit about what you were trying to convey with this cover.
So our good buddy Colin Samuel, man, he put this together. An absolutely incredible artist. I sent him the cover of the debut Lit record, the one where it has
Oh
the
my
girl that's
God.
floating in the pool.
That's what I was thinking about. The
Yep,
the one that has
dude.
by
Yeah.
the one that's like he leaves the car. Like I had that record, something in the song,
Hmm.
but I can't remember the song. My own worst enemy.
Yeah. I sent him that cover and I was like, dude, I was like, I think something like this would fit. And I'm not kidding. Like it was just maybe a couple weeks. He's like, check this out. And he sent it to me. I'm like, I'm blown away. I'm sold. That's what I want. This is the very first. This is like the only thing that changed was maybe the position of the title of the record and maybe
Mhm.
like some little things like that. But as far as the artwork, he sent that and we were all like, that's it. We don't need to see anything else. That's what we want. That was 100% exactly what we wanted. And we wanted,
That screams out so 90s, but
yeah,
I didn't think of Lit until now you mentioned it because oh my God, yeah, because it
yeah.
has like a 90s cover, but also look at the bathing suits is very 50s, just like
50s,
the one
man.
of that cover.
Yep. Dude, that's exactly, man. That's exactly where it's where the idea came from. So like it's kind of we wanted to do something that's a little bit tongue in cheek as far as the title goes, where it's almost like you're asking, like, can it get any worse? Is like a almost like you're asking for permission, you know? Because the
No,
whole
please,
record,
we had a few
yeah.
30 years, no more.
Yeah, I know, right, right. And that's the thing is that's when the writing of this record, mainly the writing of this record was during a very, very dark time. And even though like the hooks and melodies are like poppy, I definitely we as a band we really wanted to push like poppy hooks as far as like choruses go, and all the songs are kind of and they kind of exist in the same like atmosphere. I guess you could say it's like I always explain to people that it's a record about falling in love right when the world's about to end, and so it's like a very lushy, loving record, but it's got a very dark undertone to it. So we were
Yeah.
like, we want to do something kind of playful with it. And yeah, it's like just two girls just having fun on the beach, being innocent. And it's like, can it get any worse? And like they're having a good time. You know what I mean?
Yeah, if we want to fall in love, we gotta put the mask. We gotta put like 4 condoms.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. It's exactly.
Like first we gotta
Yeah.
bathe like in some like hot acid to
Yeah.
get clean. Yeah, I know it's been some a few weird years. The good thing is that I started this channel like right after like sometime in the pandemic. And when I first interviewed bands, we talk about music, but when I said when it came back to like what are the plans? There are no plans.
There
Everything
are none.
closed.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nothing to do. So now it's more interesting because at least now there's shows,
Right.
there's stuff to do. So let's talk about some tracks in the album. So the album is it's 36 minutes, so it flies by very quickly. And there's some of the songs that I don't like. They go into the other one, and sometimes they're like, "Oh, the other song started."
Yeah.
And I was like, "Oh, how did they did that?" For example, the beginning song, "Big Panic," it's like 2 minutes, and then it goes into "Before the Bombs Goes Off." That one, I think the "Before the Bomb Goes Off" is one of my favorite tracks from the record. And I was thinking, I'm like, why isn't that a single, man?
I know we were again, we were going to release a single after the record came out because I remember the 90s when bands would do that. They would release singles leading up to the record, and then out of nowhere, some bands would just drop a single after the record's already out.
Yeah. Well,
And
now it's so crazy that sometimes there's bands that release half the record. Like the record is 10 tracks or 12 tracks and they release
yeah,
8 songs. And to me, that's that's a really buzzkill.
yeah,
Like
yeah,
you like I've already heard like more than half the fucking record.
right, right,
Okay,
right,
it's well, it's easy for me to review it when they do that because I
right.
already heard like almost
Yeah.
all the record, but I think it takes out some of the mystery
I agree
because
fully.
in the 90s they did like I think they did 2 singles before the record was released, and then if the album sold good they would do more singles like that Stone Temple Pilots album. I think the first single was I think it was Plush or Sex Type Thing.
Yeah, Sex Type
Or
Thing, I think, was their first
I
one.
think Sex Type Thing was,
Yeah.
but I think that one, it's a good song, but to
Yeah.
me, that's not the best way to
Right.
to put
Right.
it like
Right.
a first single, like Here I Come, I Come. It's a very, like, I remember listening to that when I was a kid, and I was thinking like, oh my God, this song is dirty.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's talking
Yeah.
about coming, and
Right.
he's gonna give it to her and stuff. And but I think Plush had more of that commercial appeal. So back in the 90s, they had like two tracks. And then if the album did good, I think after the album was released, they would release one extra track like a week after. But if the album did good, I think the most they did was four tracks.
Yeah. And
Uh,
that was our thought too, because we didn't want to release too much of the record before it came out, because even though it is 11 tracks, it is only 36 minutes.
mhm.
And we're like, we were trying to figure it out. We're like, okay, well, let's release a couple singles before the record comes out, and then plan to release one after. And Before the Bombs Go Off is the one that we're going to release after the record comes out. So that's like the video, you know what I mean? Where even though the song's out there and people get to hear it, at least they'll have a visual representation of that. And we do all of our own video production. Myself and the guitar player are like video. We do video production and editing, so it's easy for us to do everything in house whenever we need to. So that was the plan. Yeah. So bombs was going to be, that was up in the air too. Like we were trying to figure out if it was either going to be Down the Drain or Bombs, as far as like the more of the abrasive song that we were going to release before the record came out, and we decided to go with Down the Drain. But yeah, Bombs is definitely on the table for being a post record video single.
Yeah, that's a great song. What's that song about? Is it like, let's before the shit hits the fan?
Literally, it's a lot of it's literally about, like, yeah, like falling in love at the worst time. It's kind of like the easiest way to kind of explain it, where it's like like Kiss Me for the Bombs Go Off is like the chorus of it. And I wanted to do something that was based on timing, like bad, it's always bad timing for me in everything in life.
Yeah.
uh Perfect example. It's not bad timing for Red Temple Pray, but Red Temple Pray is my favorite musical endeavor that I've ever done in the 20 years that I've played music, and it happened when
No.
I'm almost 40. You know what I
You can
mean? Like,
see when you talk about it, you see the smile in your face. Like, this is like the type of, like, this is that, like, the type of music that you want to do. So so before the bomb, you could have given it like an edgy title, like before Tinder starts subscription.
before Tinder ruins it all. Yeah, yeah.
Well, I don't know if you saw, but thank God I'm no longer I'm no longer single. Last year I came out of a divorce and I started doing the dating apps, and it's crazy.
Yeah.
It's
It's
crazy. And the Tinder, they're starting like all subscriptions for 500 a month. I'm like, who the hell
who,
wants
yeah.
to spend 500 a month on a dating app? Like,
Dude, I was listening to a podcast yesterday actually, and there's, I don't know if it's a specific like a specific app, but you pay for it, and it's all, and I'm not joking, this is 100% real. I don't remember the name of it, but it's all AI generated. So you're paying for,
oh,
knowing you're going in knowing that it's an AI
no,
generated
no,
person
I
that you're
saw
meeting.
that last year. Last year, I started getting these pop-ups like, "Are
Dude,
you lonely? Do you want to talk to an
like,
AI?"
it's
I'm
like
like,
not that lonely. Like,
why? If I want to talk to someone, I want to talk to a real
exactly,
human
dude.
being. But you know what?
Absolutely.
It's so crazy because I think COVID and isolation has made people like so lonely, and they forgot how to talk to people, that they
100%.
rely on that. And that's the what's funny. That's the basis of a movie with Joaquin Phoenix. I think it's called Her, where he
Yeah.
talks to a computer. I think, and something like that. And it's crazy that people would
Yeah.
like, why would I want to talk to a computer program? Like,
It
but
sucks, man. It's scary. It's
I'd
scary to
rather
see
get
because
shot down in a bar by a real woman
absolutely.
than talking to a computer.
Right.
Honestly,
Absolutely. Absolutely. Can you
like
imagine getting shot down by the AI too? Like you suck that bad that the AI is like, dude, no, you suck.
if
Get
the
the fuck
AI,
out of here.
you're like, no, hell no, and I paid
Yeah.
$500 for
Yeah.
this.
$500. And this AI is just like, man, you fucking suck.
No, no,
Like,
no. And other songs, there's some great, I think this album, something that you have to mention, there's so many hooks, there's so many songs that can be singles, and that's a 90s quality to me, because I think in the 90s, bands were more they weren't concerned with singles. Bands were more like concerned with making a great album. And I think the problem with some of today's music is they're just focusing on having like 2 or 3 great singles, and then the rest of the album is pure garbage.
Absolutely.
And so
100%, dude.
that's to me, I'm an albums guy.
Me too. Me too,
Uh,
man. Like fucking discussing certain records where you're just like, man, yeah, but that record, you know what I mean? It's like
yeah.
songs are here and there, but when you find a record, it's like that record front to back,
Yeah.
flawless. It's
You
it's
can
it's more of a
almost name any album from the 90s, and I can tell you they're almost all good. I can think of a few that I would say like Spin Doctors.
right,
Or something like
right.
that, yeah, they weren't that great. But even Hootie and the Blowfish, which got a lot of, I remember I got the first album, but my mother she's like, oh, I like this. And I thought like, well, this isn't cool if my
Right.
if my
Yeah.
mother likes it. And I gave it to her, and she still has, I'm like, do you still have the Hootie and the Blowfish album? It's like, oh yeah, the Hold My Hand. But when I listen to that now, I think that was a great record.
Incredible, dude.
Uh,
The chorus of that song in itself is made, it could be outplayed a million times,
yeah,
but it's so big and it's so warm and it's just like this massive singing part. It's like,
I just
oh
think that the name of the band, there's some weird band names in the 90s. You got the Hootie and the Blowfish, Smashing Pumpkins, which I love.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
but they had a Blind Melon. They had like
Blind
weird
Melon, right?
names. So I want to ask you about Red Temple Pray. Like, what's the inspiration for the band name?
So Red Temple Prey came from, I ripped it from a song by Rocky Erickson. It's called Two-Headed Dog, and in like parentheses, it was Red Temple Prayer. And for some reason that
Okay.
I always loved that. And Rocky Erickson was uh I don't know if I guess you could consider him like classic rock, but he was in like the
Mm.
13th Floor Elevator, 60s psychedelic band. But when he went solo, he quite literally went crazy. Like he nut ward like was put away, and he got out of like out of the asylum and stuff, and he believed that he was God. He believed that he was the devil. He believed that he was a vampire, werewolf, and an alien all at once. Like, dude, there's a documentary by
So he was stuck in 2024, because
dude,
that's
100%. Yeah,
that's what
way ahead of his
happens now.
time.
People can there's some people think like, hey, I'm an animal. Okay, here's a little bug, a litter
Yeah,
bug for you. Like, there's so many like crazy stuff happening.
yeah, yeah.
Uh, so
He's
yeah,
way ahead of the time, that's for sure. Yeah.
he was like what you would call today an influencer.
Yeah, yeah. There's a
He was a
documentary about
trendsetter.
him.
He was ahead of his time. Yeah, because I wonder. Yeah, it's a cool name.
Yeah, but like it was weird because at the time that the name came about, it was a very cool name to like. It felt like good saying it, and the original Red Temple Prey stuff was a lot darker. It was still clean vocals, but it was a lot darker, and the name stuck, but the music changed. So it just, I don't know, it just kind of fit. And it was funny because I remember, or not even remember, it just happened recently. We played a show in Chicago, and the headlining band, the singer didn't really even care to learn the band name, and he kept calling us Red Temple Pilots like over and over again. I'm just like,
Red
I was
Temple
like,
Pilots.
yeah, it's like I'm not mad because that's my second favorite
But
band next to Deftones, but at the same time, man, like,
yeah,
hey,
I
like,
was gonna ask you that because Red Temple Pray, Stone Temple Pilots. It's 3 words.
yeah,
Maybe,
dude,
but
and that wasn't the weird thing about that is that being one of my all-time favorite bands ever,
didn't you?
ever, ever.
Yeah, didn't you come
It
out
did.
like we're Red Temple Pilots?
Yeah, dude, my mom says it all the time, and I'm like, nah, that's not it. She tells people, hey, he's in this band called Stone Temple Pilots or something, and I'm like, like, mom, don't be telling people that shit. They're going to think that I'm lying to you that I'm in Stone Temple Pilots.
Oh, well, I remember at the beginning, I used to call them Stone. I thought it was Stone Temple Pilots.
Oh yeah, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and I thought Foo Fighters was Food Fighters,
Food Fighters,
and
that's
I'm like, well,
awesome.
I'm like, that's a sucky name, Food Fighters, but
I didn't know up until recently. I think was it Foo Fighters or like UFOs or something
oh
like
yeah, that's what they
yeah.
are. That's the
Dude, I
term.
had no idea until like 6 months ago.
No, no, I knew it because I think they had said it in previous interviews and
Like
stuff.
interviews and stuff. Yeah.
So yeah, so a lot of the so what I'm getting a lot of the tracks here could be singles because then you have a song like Sirens, and that's all like, oh, call your mom. And I thought, oh, that's sweet. Call your mother, she cares. And
Yeah.
Heaven Like You, that's a great one because that's the type of like it's like a power grunge ballad.
Yeah, that was definitely the goal in that one for sure. Um, the music, luckily, like I have the opportunity to sit back and because we write the music together. Like we do it very old school. We sit in a storage unit and write and practice. Like so, like a lot of times, the guitar player he'll come up with a guitar part. He'll track it as like a demo. He'll send it to everybody. We'll all listen to it and come to the practice space with ideas. And then that's when we start demoing everything else out. So I have the awesome ability to be able to have the instruments completely in my ears, like to be like, oh, this is the full song. And it was a ballady song. I'm like, I've always wanted to do it. I've always wanted to do a ballad. Like I said, I'm a massive hair metal dude. Like I've always wanted to do a ballad, but in the right way that would be fit me because I can't sound like 80s hair metal, especially
No,
with this
it's
type of band.
like a Saigon
And,
Kick. Love is on the
like I
way.
say, yeah. Love's on the way, man.
Extreme, more than words.
Dude, I love all that
Yeah,
stuff,
I don't know
man.
why people hate like there's like a problem in today's world, like with like, oh, metal can have ballads. There's some great ballads,
Incredible,
like
dude. Yeah.
yeah, great musicians. So yeah, that one's like Heaven's Just Like You. So that one's I listen to a song, it feels like if it's like when you find someone that's so great that you think like heaven must be them.
Right. Yeah. And it's about being away, man. It's about being on tour. Like the one line, it's like, and here I am drinking bad coffee in some nowhere town. It's like it's a lot of my a lot of like the way that I feel about certain things comes from insecurities. And I think that a lot of the lyrics come from that too, where it's like almost like you can't believe someone cares that much about you. So like in that song in particular, it's about being in a like a good relationship and you're away and you're missing that person, but it's like, do you really want me to come home? You know what I mean? And but it's you, it's me that's feeling like
That didn't
that.
happen to Brett Michaels.
No, hell no, it didn't.
With every
Hell
foreign
no.
has when I listen to the story of that song, I'm like, dude, she was a stripper. like
Stripper.
like
Called her from like a payphone or something. Yeah, yeah.
what are you expecting? Like,
Right. Right.
but
Yeah.
hey, great, a great song. So
Incredible
uh
song, dude. I listen to it like weekly still to this
oh,
day.
I
Incredible
used to
song.
go when I lived in Miami to a gym where the trainer every time that was our cool off song. And I'm like, can you put another song? It's like I'm tired of listening to every rose has its thorn.
Yeah. I feel like I'm at a karaoke night. I'm at the
Like
gym right now.
like every time
Yeah.
he would put
Yeah.
that. So out of in this album, like what is the song for you that if you had to, if no one has listened to Red Temple Pray, like you
Mhm.
would say, like listen to this song and you would get what we're all about.
I think for this record in particular, I would say probably Before the Bombs Go Off. I feel like that kind of really shapes the
That's
whole
what I think
record.
that's my favorite.
Dude, yeah, man. It's like it has a little bit of everything. Like
Yeah.
everything in the like the ballady parts, the hooks, the slow, the love, like the lushy lyrics, the big guitars. I think that's the one. That song
Yeah.
probably is.
Yeah, I like chlorine too, but I
Mhm.
kind of get reminded of the chlorine, glycerine, like
Dude, dude, yeah, there's so many things that like when I went into writing that I think back and I start getting again the self-conscious, like, dude, did I rip that off of somebody? And I find out that it's not necessarily ripped off, but it's like influence. The glycerine thing kind of like that didn't come to mind until way after the record was
you know
done.
that
And I'm like, shit,
until this day I don't know what the hell glycerine.
I don't know. I don't know what
What
that
the
is.
fuck
I
is
have
he
no
talking
clue.
about? That's
Maybe it's an alien too. I don't know. Hell.
something about Gavin Rossdale's lyrics. I think I think they compared him a lot to Nirvana, to Kurt Cobain, because I think they both wrote lyrics that were hard to decipher.
Like it meant more. It meant so
Yeah.
much to them that it was like a
Yeah.
puzzle to
I
everybody else.
still
Yeah.
think, honest, that Kurt Cobain was a better songwriter,
Hmm.
but I love Bush, and Bush has put out. They've made a resurgence. They put out some amazing albums recently, and I saw them on tour. And the guy passed next to me without a shirt, and he looks fucking great.
Just
I'm
shredded. Yeah.
like, damn you! You're like, he's like 56 years
Dude.
old,
Yeah.
and he looks amazing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And yeah, well, I think I'm in pretty good shape for 46, uh, but yeah, it's incredible. So yeah, all these 90s making a comeback. So let's talk about, I know you guys have a show on March 1st, which is next week, next Friday. Tell us a little
Mhm.
bit about where the show's gonna be, who's gonna play.
It's at this we have this bar here in town where I come from, and it's my buddy's bar. It's a cool little dive bar, and they're always
Those are
so
the best
down for.
shows.
Dude, yeah, and we wanted something dirty and not like dirty like clean, but something like low key and low light, and it's a floor show. There's no stage. We're running our
Oh,
own sound, and it's our CD release, like it's our record release show, and we're doing it like right in your face, small, intimate situation.
I
The
like
bands that
those
are
shows.
on it,
I've been to smaller places here where bands play without a stage, and it's cool because
yeah.
you feel like you're kind of part of the band. Uh,
You're a part of the night. You're a part of the experience. It's a shared experience, and that's so awesome for stuff like this. Like it's supposed to be, and I love that.
so, what's the name of the bar for people who see this and they're like, "What is this bar they're playing?"
The Wobbly Ghost Tavern.
That that sounds like a
Yeah,
very cool Irish pub.
yeah,
Like,
very. Yeah, the Wobbly Ghost Tavern, man. They have the big old ghost out there and everything. It's cool, dude. It's shout out
well,
to Brian and Tara, man. The owners, they're great. They're the best.
yeah, those type of shows are very good. And are you gonna have like, do you have physical copies of the album?
Well, I think we're gonna have tapes and CDs for the show. We don't have vinyl yet, which that's the goal always.
It's so fucking
But
expensive, but
oh
yeah.
my god, dude, right now it's crazy,
I've
crazy.
I've seen vinyl. Like, the other day, I went to this vinyl store in Puerto Rico called Oye Records,
Uh-huh.
and it's a cool little store. But almost all the albums were $38 and up,
Dude,
and
I know.
I'm like $38 for a record is too much.
That's
Like,
insane. It's insane. And these people are having to price it that because like how much money it is to get it pressed, especially an
mhm.
independent artist. I want to say the cheapest that we were able to price was like I want to say it was like 50 records for like $1,300.
Oh,
Dude, like
that's a
what?
hole in a bank in your bank account.
Yeah, because we're paying for everything ourselves. But yeah, we'll have Sink or Swim Records is releasing our tapes. Awesome. John over there, badass, very cool dude. He's doing tapes for us because I don't know if you know, but like tapes are making a comeback, I
Oh, they
guess.
are, and
Dude.
and this is my question:
Yeah.
why?
Why? Yeah.
Why are tapes like, I remember tapes in the 90s, they sucked. Like,
Uh-huh.
sometimes they would get stuck. And I remember, back in the 90s, I used to do mixtapes with the tapes.
Yeah.
I would listen to my favorite songs and I would put them. But sometimes
Hmm.
it was in the radio. I hated when they talked over
Oh
before
yeah.
the song was over. You're like, you fuck up the first.
You'd get commercials and shit on it.
Yeah, like the best part.
Yeah.
So kids today won't know
Yeah.
the struggle of
It's the
doing
struggle, man.
a mixtape, because now they'll be like, oh, I make a Spotify playlist. I can make
Yeah.
a fucking Spotify. That's so fucking easy. But
It's
doing
super
the
easy.
art of a mixtape is a
It's
lost art.
amazing.
First of
Dude,
all,
and giving it to somebody that's
you
customized
have
for
to
them,
think
like,
of like the placing of the songs. Why are you placing this song for her on this record? What are you trying to say to her? I
right.
remember giving mixtapes to maybe a girl in the 90s, and then you would ask her like, hey, did you hear the song? And she's like, no. You're like, but I put all that effort
Yeah.
into that mixtape.
It's from
uh,
my heart, man.
it's I've said it on other interviews here. Like, I know Pearl Jam's putting out a new record now, so that's a big thing. But I had a love-hate relationship with Pearl Jam because back in the 90s when they released Yield on
Yeah.
Valentine's Day, my girlfriend at the time I went to pick her up to go eat, and she's like, "Oh, wait right here." And she went and she bought me Yield, but after that day she dumped me. So every that I would
Oh,
listen
yeah.
to Yield,
Yeah.
it's like, oh, the music has been ruined. I
Yep.
couldn't listen to that album for years, and now I still love it. But I remember
Yeah.
for years,
Yeah.
ruined.
I remember something similar. I was dating this girl, it was my first girlfriend. I was a late bloomer in everything in life, and it was my first girlfriend. I was like 15. And I was like in love with this girl, and she made her burnt CD for me. And it had her name. It was like Holly Loves You, Heart, and everything like that. You put it in, and the first song on it's like Hate Breed. So it's like real heavy shit. But it was like so I know she made it for me.
Was it like
And
Destroy Everything?
it was yeah, it was Perseverance. It was the song, actual song Perseverance by Hatebreed was the opening track to it. But whenever we broke up, it was a really funny situation where it's like, man, I can't listen to this song. It bums me out. And they're like, what is it? I'm like, Hatebreed, man.
So
Like
you
it
you
just reminds me of
imagine
her.
if you went to a Hatebreed show and they're playing that song, everyone's like pumping their fist
Yeah.
and they look at
I'm
you, you're like
crying.
crying, like no.
Just crying. I miss her, man. Jamie, I miss her, bud.
You're crying to Hatebreed.
Yeah, yeah.
That's that's a very funny one.
Yeah.
Trying to Hatebreed. So Josh, we've been talking a lot. Like it feels like I'm talking to a buddy.
Yeah, dude. It's awesome, man. This is cool. I love it.
Like talking about so right now for you, like is there any new music or bands that you're into?
Dude, please check out the band Porch Dream. We're about to do a tour with them starting next week. They're coming from Texas
What's the name of
to
the band?
Porch Dream.
Porch Dream. I like that
Yeah.
name.
Oh, dude. They just put out a couple new singles like last week. They're killer band. We're stoked to be able to go out with them. Another band, we did a tour. I'm trying to think when it was. It was a couple months ago. It's some buddies of mine that are in a heavier band. They're in an alternative rock band called Getting Over. Might be my favorite record that's come out in the past like 2 years. Dude, it is absolutely incredible. It's very raw sounding, but it's incredible. It's a great record. I think they're putting out one of the new singles. I think they got a couple singles out now. I've heard the whole record, but they're kind of like just dropping singles as they go.
Yeah, that's the
But
new thing to do.
yeah, yeah, it's the new thing. People just dropping like little singles as they go. And I'm just like, dude, just drop the record because I already have a copy of it. It's incredible. It's absolutely incredible. But definitely check out Getting Over. Those two guys are awesome. There's so many like really cool bands that aren't big that are playing this style of music right now, and I love it because it makes me feel it makes me feel younger. So that's awesome. I'll
Yeah.
take that.
Yeah, I think sometimes the best releases are the more the lesser known bands. Last year to
Yep.
me, my band of the year on Spotify was Soft Cult because I discovered
Oh
them
yeah.
and I couldn't get enough of them. I think they write great lyrics. I sent them a message to interview, but I never got a reply. I'm like, oh, I would have loved
Oh
to
really?
interview them. Yeah,
Yeah.
because
Dude, I got another band. Pummeled from Pittsburgh.
Hummel.
Pummeled.
Okay, yeah.
Dude, please check them out. We did a
Oh,
weekend with
Pittsburgh.
those.
Pittsburgh is huge on the map again, thanks to Code
Yeah.
Orange.
Yep.
Because
Code
Code
Orange.
Orange is a band that blew up, and I like the record from last year because they sound more alternative and
Yeah.
like less hardcore. And some people hated it. I'm like, I love it.
Right. It's right up your alley. Right.
It's
Yeah,
right up my
absolutely.
alley. Like I
Yeah.
tell you, like if anything has that 90s influence, usually I love it, unless they're not doing it good.
Right. I know what you mean. There's definitely a handful of bands that it's almost like they're trying to force it, and it's like,
Yeah, no, but you can tell from your record that it's almost like a love letter to the 90s.
yep,
Red
absolutely, man.
Temple Pray, the album is already out digitally. Is it already out on some copies, or will people be able to get it after March 1st?
Should be able to get it after March 1st. We'll have our limited tapes out. It's I think we're doing just a 30 run of tapes, and once those are gone, they are gone. It has a alternative cover too, so it's different than what the album is. And then we'll have like CDs, and then hopefully this year we will have like the vinyl. That's the big one, but the wait period for vinyl is like 6 months or
No,
something crazy.
I know, it's crazy.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
crazy.
That's
So Crazy. So, Josh, I want to thank you for taking all your night to chat with me about the band Red Temple Pray, not Red Temple Pilots,
Red Temple Pilots.
Red
Yeah.
Temple Pray, and about the album Can It Get Any Worse? So, if you grew up in the 90s and you like this, and you are saying, like, there's no more good bands out there is a ton of bands doing that 90s revival, but with a modern twist. So, getting to them because it's usually people who grew up in the 90s and missed that
Right.
music, and they're
Yeah.
bringing it back. So, and they're doing it good. So, do not sleep on bands like this because we need like not every pop music needs to be like Taylor Swift or something on the
Yeah.
radio.
Yeah.
It can be other things. So again, thank you for taking time. I hope that the show is a success, and you're here invited on the couch anytime.
I
Like
would love
I
to come
think
back, man.
I do a series that you might enjoy. It is called "Is It That Bad?" And the premise of the series is that we take an album that maybe people didn't like it at the time. And so I do like a panel and I with other YouTubers or musicians, and we talk about the album. We pick 3 tracks that we think are the worst. Then we vote thumbs up, thumbs down, and it's pretty fun. And actually, this Sunday we're premiering an episode for Pearl Jam and Riot Act because it got the most votes as the hated album. So yeah,
Nice.
so I think you would enjoy being a guest.
I would love. I would love to.
It's
Yeah,
super
you just let me
fun.
know.
And I have just the album there's an album that I want to talk about that gets a lot of hate, and I never understood why. And it's the Smashing Pumpkins Zeitgeist from
Oh,
2006. That's
yeah,
an
yeah, yeah.
album that got so much hate that Billy Corgan took it off streaming services. You can
Yeah.
only listen to that on YouTube or if you
Yep.
have the CD.
Yep. Physical
So,
copies matter.
yeah, physical copies. My parents have it somewhere because I bought that on CD. So people, remember the album is already out. You can stream it. I'll put links for some of the music videos, but you can get the physical copy soon. So until next time, people, this is Hector, the Shield Dude on a couch, and I'll see you all right here on the couch. Thank you
See y'all later.
and goodbye.